Big and Tupac's murder, but they arrest OJ the next day. Nicole Simpson can't rap. I was just...
Spread your cheeks and lift your sack. Like, what the fuck? Excuse me?
He set policy for this administration, and I support the president.
90 seconds.
Well, I think it's important to remember when you're talking about this issue that Vice President Cheney has a lesbian. And not only is his daughter a lesbian, but his mom's a lesbian. And his sister's a lesbian. And his great granny has holes in her panties.
Well, go ahead and let me situate.
I noticed you referred to African Americans. What exactly is your problem?
How much time you got, buddy? Where would I start? Well, first of all, they're lazy, good-for-nothing tricksters, crack-smoking swindlers, big butt-having, wide-nose breathing on the white man's air. They eat up all the chicken, they think they're the best dancers, and they stink. Did I mention that before?
Yes, I believe you did, sir.
Sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that.
I was fucking shocked. The cop said, well, now you know. Just get out of here. Just get the fuck out of here.
We are now recording, by the way. Well, I don't know. I guess we could do an intro first. I guess I'll say something like, welcome to episode 1, the pilot with technical difficulties for I Didn't Know I Couldn't Do That. This is a Dave Chappelle podcast, and I'm here with my colleague, Darren.
Hello, world. How's it going out there?
All right. So thank you, Darren, for being here. Welcome. This is, again, our first episode of I Didn't Know I Couldn't Do That. This is the only podcast I'm aware of that is devoted to all things that are related to Dave Chappelle. And
awesome.
We thought we would start with it's the 20th anniversary of Dave's first 1-hour comedy special, which was on HBO, Killin Them Softly. It was actually the 26th, but, we couldn't get our shit together until the 29th. But, hey, it's 20 years, which I can't believe it's been that long. And I thought we could start out talking about, when and where did we first discover this, because I didn't know about it until probably 2002 or 2003. I was in Spanish class with a bunch of pothead white guys that loved it and were quoting it all the time. And I said, I have to find out what the hell these guys are talking about. And I looked it up. That was back in before torrents. You had to go on LimeWire and download stuff.
Yeah,
that was there.
LimeWire was an insane time in America, Kyle.
It was
very insane.
So I downloaded it, and I've been a fan ever since. I watch it probably at least once a month. So, when did you first discover it? When did you become aware of this excellent, I would argue, one of the best stand-up specials of all time?
Yeah, that's really not I don't think that is a great argument to even have, Kyle. I truly believe that is a work of art that is by far one of the greatest stand-up specials out there in comedy. I would say you're talking 2002, 2003. Yeah, and insanely enough, as much as I enjoyed Dave for many years, I didn't know about that special until 2012, 2013. And ironically, by you.
Yeah, I was going to say, when I told you about it.
When you told me about it, because, and I'm sure we'll touch on this in another episode, about you and I and how we became friends and our, you know, our love for Dave's comedy and that kind of sort of thing. But, you know, we would be reciting Chappelle lines, and every now and again you would throw in one from KTS, and I would be like, wait a minute, you know, and you would keep reminding me. And then finally I was like, I got to check this out. I got to see what this is about. And ever since that day, matter of fact, I remember I was in my office and hopefully some of our colleagues and administrators don't ever listen to this, but you know, it was during office hours one day, and I put it on in the office and watched it, and I was hooked ever since that moment. And like you, it's typically probably a once a month watch. You know,
Yeah, it's one of those.
It never gets old.
I'll just put it on in the background while I'm working on something.
Right.
It's just one of those things. I probably could quote it like from start to finish, but
Right.
Yeah, I know. I remember I was telling you, I was like, sorry, officer, I didn't know I couldn't do that. And you're like, what the fuck are you talking about? But yeah, we bonded over Chappelle's show. So was Chappelle's show the first exposure you had to Dave?
No. Of course, the movies, you know, that's pretty much what put me in the
What, Robin Hood Men in Tights?
No, more like Nutty Professor.
Oh, right. I forgot he was in Nutty Professor.
Yeah. Nutty Professor was probably my first exposure to Dave. How High, of course.
Yes. Oh, gosh. Yeah. I'm looking at his acting credits. I mean, the guy, he played a lot of, going back to 1981 and something called The End of August, he played Kid on the Beach. But then, 1993, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and then he had that short-lived TV sitcom called Buddies. Which...
Didn't even know about that. Where does Nutty Professor fall in on that list?
Nutty Professor, when did that come out? Like the late 90s?
Late 90s, early 2000s, maybe?
I didn't realize.
No, I was in junior high.
Oh, you were in junior high.
Because I remember I recorded some of his, some of the movie on a cassette player and would bring it to school in junior high with some of my buddies, and we would laugh as we watched, as we listened, and all that kind of stuff. So I'm pretty sure that was late 90s.
1996.
Okay, yeah.
We're aging ourselves here talking about cassette tapes.
Right. So my exposure to Dave started out basically Nutty Professor and movies like How High and that sort of thing. So,
and Half Baked, right? You saw Half Baked.
You know, am I confusing How High with Half Baked?
I think you are.
I think I am. Yeah.
Yeah. How High?
Do you see How High on there?
No, it's not on there.
Okay, so I'm confusing How High with Half Baked. That's the one.
Half Baked. Yeah. It's like, I got some booty. I got some booty. Yeah. No, he had a lot of. He was like a character actor. He played, third, fourth, fifth, lead in a lot of movies. But yeah, so that's it. That's interesting. I had forgotten about Nutty Professor.
Yeah.
So he goes back a long way, but I really think, he really hit the map when Chappelle's show came out.
Did he?
I mean, in terms of becoming a household name.
Yeah, I must agree there. It was the Chappelle show, and, that was during a time where you didn't have DVR.
Nope.
And so it was one of those things to where, you pretty much had to catch it live.
Yeah, you did. I mean, every now and then they would play reruns, but you always wanted to see it when it first aired. And I remember you were telling me a story like you'd be rushing home from
oh yeah,
class.
me and my college roommate, we would be in the library on campus, and our apartment was off campus, probably about a mile from the house. or about a mile from the campus. So we would be in the library studying, and, you know, one of us would look at our watch and we'd see 10 minutes, you know, until the start of the show. And when I tell you, we would pack those backpacks and jet out of that library and haul ass for about a mile till we got back to our apartment. I mean, hey, whatever it took to get home and get comfortable before Dave started. But I mean, Chappelle's Show really changed the game, and you know, we're gonna have several episodes dealing with the Chappelle Show in general. But yeah, it definitely changed the game.
It did. And I'm looking at this article from August 4th, 2000 from the Chicago Tribune, written by a guy named Steve Johnson, who I looked up. He's a white guy. This is the article I told you about.
Of course he is.
He's comparing Killing Them Softly to Chris Rock's special, but he says, more so than Chris Rock's funny but somewhat scattershot HBO special, this is a carefully crafted show, not just a collection of moments. And I think that's true. I mean, when it comes to being a storyteller, I mean, Dave, the way he does callbacks, you know, like in the beginning of this thing, he'll mention something, and then 40 minutes later, he brings it back up.
Right.
But at the very end of this article, it says, quick, somebody give this guy a TV series. And it was, what, 3 years later when he got one.
The show was, created. And I think we're going to touch on this a little later on, about some trivia and some fun facts. So won't kind of dive into that at this exact moment, but it's kind of interesting the route that was taken, or what actually happened, for Dave to actually land a sketch comedy show.
Yes, it is an interesting story. It's also an interesting story how he met Neil, the co-creator, who has I guess he's a stand-up comic now. But they were both, I think Neil was like a doorman at the Boston Comedy Cellar, and they were both 18, and they just kind of became friends, and Dave hired him on to be a co-creator, not just writer. He's, you know, credited as co-creator of the show. I mean, obviously it's not the Neil Brennan show, it's the Dave Chappelle show, but yeah, we'll get into that. There's a lot of really interesting little trivia about how it came to be, and I think that's how any TV series, there's just a series of weird events that just happen. Everything just the stars align and things happen.
But I will say that is kind of interesting, the Neil aspect of the whole series, and I don't know. It's just it's interesting.
It really
because when you think of it, you see, you know, the Dave Chappelle Show, and of course Neil gets, you know, the credit as the co-creator and all that good jazz, but still, and yet he plays such a pivotal background role in all of this. So you know, just kind of, I love to see him kind of just break out. Do you know if he's ever done anything, you know, solo, any stand-up specials or anything of that nature?
It's funny you ask that. I was listening to a podcast with his brother. You know, Neil he's from an Irish family, so he's one of 10 children. So,
oh, wow. Yeah.
But he's got an older brother who is a comedian and has been in TV shows and stuff. And his brother hates his fucking guts, by the way. They hate each other. But he said, no, Neil hasn't done anything since Chappelle's Show. And I mean, the residual checks he's getting, he doesn't probably have to. He does have a stand-up special on Netflix. But in terms of like TV series, he has not done anything since then. And he's got a podcast. But yeah, I mean, every comedian has a podcast.
So with that being said, I wonder, you know, when Dave decided to kind of fall back a little bit, and, you know, took his trip to Africa, which, by the way, you know, that's, and I'm sure we'll touch on that maybe in the trivia portion, or later on in a future episode. speculation. He really didn't stay over there as long as people like to say he did. But like I said, we may touch on that a little later. But I wonder what their relationship is like right now. Did the decision to leave all those millions of dollars on the table, because of course that affected Neil and his family as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So I'm wondering, did that put a strain on their relationship? Or was it strong enough to where Neil was like, I understand?
Well,
and I also wonder, did Neil stay on? Because, after Dave left, they tried to, keep it going and finish it out. And I think, was it Charlie Murphy hosted?
And what's his name? Darwin.
Yeah, Rollins.
Yeah, they tried to keep it going, and because they had filmed all these sketches. And
right, they had already had a bunch of,
hey, listen, we got to churn these out and see how many people will watch. I think Neil did stay on, and I think I remember hearing in an interview, he was asked about his relationship with Dave, and he said, Dave didn't even tell him that he was leaving to go to Africa. He just bounced. He didn't tell anybody. And he said he was kind of hurt by that.
Interesting.
But yeah, that would be worth doing a more deep dive into, like, to find out, do they talk now? I mean, are they?
Yeah, what their relationship is actually like now.
Probably strained. Probably not that great, I would think. $50 million. I mean, Neil, I don't know what his end of the bargain
None of that would have been. But yeah. Interesting. I mean, I think that's something we need to look into for a future episode.
Absolutely. Another while we're talking about the liberal media, I've got
liberal media.
There's an article I already touched on the Chicago Tribune article, but there's an article that came out in June of this year that I have open. It says why a Dave Chappelle clip from 20 years ago may have predicted today's response to the Black Lives Matter movement. And it's a clip we're going to play if we can get our audio situation figured out. But it's him talking about police brutality and basically how white people didn't believe that it was happening. It says, for years he's talked about how black people in America are subject to police brutality and violence, even on mainstream media. Recently resurfaced clip shows how prescient he was. And he's talking about the, honey, did you see this? Did you see? It's in the May issue. Apparently the police have been beating up Negroes like hotcakes.
Yeah, I remember that. Go ahead and drop that. Go ahead and play it.
Okay, I'll play it now.
Honey, did you see this? Apparently the police have been beating up Negroes like hotcakes. It's in the May issue.
That's just a 10-second clip. I've got a longer clip we'll play later. But what they're saying is then this Time Magazine article comes out, and somebody posted on Twitter, it's got an image of a Black Lives Matter protest. It's about police brutality. And in fact, it's the May issue of Time Magazine. Just thought, what a coincidence, right?
What a coinkydink.
I mean,
some people don't believe in coincidences, Kyle. I mean, maybe, hey, we are definitely living in a time.
Some people say cucumbers taste better pickled.
Exactly. Huh?
What? But I mean, gosh, talk about, he's just not only is he a comedian, but I was talking to somebody else about the best comedians are the ones that make you think about yourself and without you even realizing that you're doing that. And I think, especially with his latest special, which was, less comedy and more outrage, that hopefully he spoke to a lot of people and maybe changed some hearts and minds on this issue, because he was mad. I mean, he was trying to be funny, but you could tell he was upset.
Wasn't no punchline to that.
No, he was mad.
Dave was mad. And rightfully so.
Absolutely.
You know, this podcast isn't dedicated to the injustices of this world, but he had every right to be. And I think he did a masterful job. And I'm sure we'll touch on that specific special as well.
I think we should,
at a later date. But and he had a way of bringing that all together, kind of what you touched on a little earlier about he could mention something, you know, at the 5-minute mark, and it comes back up at the 55-minute mark. And he does that pretty much in every stand-up I've seen him do, actually. You and I, we went and saw him live.
Yes.
Whoa, that was what, 20?
That was like
13?
2013. It was
2013?
It was in Austin, and it was in August, and it was outside. It was bad timing. And yeah, that was the one where we had to sit through like an hour and a half of those weirdos from New Zealand.
Flight of the
Conchords.
Flight of the Concorde.
All these people around us were singing along, and me and you were just like, "What the fuck is this?"
Yeah, we're here for one thing only.
We should have shown up an hour and a half late. That shit was ridiculous.
But it was great. It was you know, an experience that you and I, it just comes full circle. How we became so close, and I know we're going to talk about this at a later date as well, but how we became so close, and the bond that we have over Dave, and was able to go experience watching him live. And we've talked about it. We're wanting to catch him again.
Yeah.
But, you know, Dave, you do some tricky stuff, buddy. I hope you're listening to this.
I'm sure he's not listening to this.
Hey, man, who knows? You know, some people say cucumbers taste better deal, you know. But you do some tricky stuff. And, you know, it's like it's hard. You're so popular, you will announce that you're going to be somewhere, and tickets sell out within 10 minutes of you announcing the venue that you're going to be at. It's kind of hard to catch Dave.
Yeah, it really
but
is.
we were lucky enough to do that, and I forgot how that even came about. You know, because I remember when it happened, we were both like, wait a minute, you know, Dave normally doesn't, you know, announce.
That was before he had his big comeback with the Netflix specials. You know, he wasn't
right.
He was dropping in like randomly at comedy clubs unannounced. Right. But it was, you know, I forget how we found out about it too. I think it just like popped up.
It popped up somewhere. We were like, Austin, hey, we're on it.
Yeah, it's like Dave Chappelle's doing a stand-up. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, and then he started with the stand-up specials after that, and came out with the guns, and he had been working out, and you know, you're just like, whoa.
Yeah, I think he was on Conan or one of those shows, and they were like complimenting. They said, "Oh, you look great. You look like you've been working out." And he was like, "Yeah, I never used to work out. I started, and I started liking how I look. So I said, I'm just gonna keep doing this."
Right.
And you know, he's almost 50. He's in great shape. He's in better shape than I am.
He's in great shape.
He's great. Yes. So, all right. So I wanted to go into some of the relevance to
what's happening in 2020, huh?
Yeah, and we kind of discussed that with that one article, but I pulled some clips, and the first one's not really so much related to. I just thought this one was funny. It's the first time you ever hear, at least in this special, it's the first time you hear his white person voice, which is just it's my favorite thing ever. His white person voice.
Go ahead and drop it.
All righty.
There's a lot of white people walking around, isn't there? I mean, I left D.C. in the 80s. It was not like this in the 80s when crack was going on. Remember when crack was going on? White people be looking at D.C. from Virginia with binoculars and shit. Well, that looks dangerous. Not yet.
Wonderful. Now, and you and I, we always talk about this and always tell you that Dave's white man's voice is better than any white man.
Yes.
On, any white man that talks white in real life. I mean, Dave has a wonderful white guy's voice. It's hilarious. I mean,
it goes back to Richard Pryor had a really great white person voice.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
But no, I think Dave's like he sounds whiter than me, I think.
I think it is fantastic.
I do too. So now let's
the connections
to 2020, which has been just an awful, horrible year for many reasons.
I mean, just to be honest, it's been pretty awful since 2016. But
that's true too. But I mean, the thing is, going back to him talking about the white people were skeptical, and we'll play the clip, but they didn't believe it until they read it in Newsweek that police were beating the shit out of black people. But now, everybody's got a camera in their pocket at all times, and right. So people act like this is a new thing, but shit, I mean, look at Rodney King back in 93, 92. I mean, it's been going on. They've just gotten away with it, and now they've got body cams, but the motherfuckers turn them off. Anytime they're about to do some shit. But there's enough people standing around, like the George Floyd thing. There were like 7 people standing around with cameras filming the cops, and those guys wouldn't have been convicted if it hadn't been for that video evidence. So, times they are changing. People didn't have phones in their pockets in 2000.
That's true. And very horrific thing that happened, or that's been happening. I mean, you got, all kind of situations like that's happening across the United States right now. And things are changing. People do have, access to their phones, and they're pulling them out more. But I think it even goes deeper than that, Kyle. I just think the pulse of the American young people are really starting to wake up.
Yes.
And kind of like what Dave was saying, Dave said, I'm comfortable, when he, was it Don Lemon?
The Don Lemon. Don Lemon said, "Why aren't you speaking out? Why aren't celebrities speaking out?"
Right, and Dave hit the nail on the head there. Let the young people, they got this.
But no, you're right. The pulse is changing. Young people are not complacent. There's a lot of stereotypes about the millennials and how they're just sitting around, nobody does anything. But I mean, there something about the George Floyd thing really triggered people to get out in the streets, and politicians are starting to have to listen. I mean, in the streets. I think Mr. Mandela's been smoking my drugs.
Boom, bum, away.
But I mean, even some of these Republican senators that are, basically like Klan members and part-time, but I mean, even they're realizing like, shit, we're not going to get reelected if we don't change our stance.
Okay. So let me pause this right here. For the record, everyone, Kyle is a far, far left extremist. Let me go ahead and put that out there. You're going to hear us get into these conversations. And, I personally, compared to Kyle, I am Brian Gumble, okay? And Kyle is Malcolm X.
It's such a great reference.
Okay, so that was my Chappelle reference for the moment. But so let me bring it back a little bit. But he's pretty far left, and compared to him, I think I'm left, but I'm a little more center left than Kyle is. So I try my darnest to pull him back a little bit sometimes, because he can go there, ladies and gentlemen. He can go there, and so it's a struggle. Yes. I just want to forewarn y'all, as you hear him talk sometimes about certain things in America and the world and his worldview. So now you can understand his worldview a little bit better by me telling you that he's pretty far extreme to the left.
Yes. Thank you for that disclaimer.
Okay, so carry on.
Yeah, so I mean, some of these people like are coming out and saying, they used to remember nobody would say Black Lives Matter, like they wouldn't say it, and like even I think John Cornyn has come out and tweeted Black Lives Matter. Clearly, he's just trying to get elected.
Are you? Hold on, wait a minute. Are you serious? I hadn't seen that.
Yeah, I believe it was him. Several of them have said it because
I bet Louis Gohmert hadn't said it.
No, Louis Gohmert, I hope he dies from COVID-19.
Come on, buddy.
Sorry, we'll edit that out.
Well, we heard today that Louis Gohmert tested positive for COVID.
I think that is great.
Oh my goodness. Jeez. So I do find it ironic that a lot of the, and this is something that I battle with, and I know I shouldn't feel good about it, but there is an element of me that kind of shake my head and go, little fist bump when some of these Republican politicians that are so staunch against wearing of mask and the truth behind COVID-19, when it attacks them or their family. And, I have to say, it's a certain part of me that feel good. And that's, I'm being bluntly honest right now.
Yeah, the irony is just it's just hilarious. Like, it's all the people who said we need to get the kids back to school. Masks aren't necessary, individual freedom, going into Capitol Hill, not wearing masks. And it's all of them that are coming down with COVID. You haven't seen, I don't think there's been one Democrat who's had it.
Good point. And I know we've veered off there, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta race. I don't know.
Sometimes you gotta race. You know what I mean?
Chip, no.
Chip, no.
Speaking of that, to bring it back, talking about police brutality again, this clip I think is important to play because, as a white person, I used to not be afraid of police until I got in some trouble a couple of times. So now I feel the same way, but I thought this clip was very, very important for people to hear, to understand the history behind why there is this mistrust of police. So let me go ahead and drop that now.
Okay. So black people are very afraid of the police. That is a big part of our culture. No matter how rich you are, how old you are, we're just afraid of them. We got every reason to be afraid of them. You know what I mean? Like, you a white lady, ever been pulled over before? And then what they say, let me see your driver's license and your registration, right? See, I'm just guessing. That's not what they say to us. You wouldn't believe what they say to us. Spread your cheeks and lift your sack. Like, what the?
See, that's where I wanted to pause. Not because they're also.
Yeah, that's probably going to get a little vulgar there, but yeah, it's a different experience. And he's making light of the situation, but that is a very real thing. I'm sure, Kyle, growing up, you never had to have the talk. I'm sure that you know exactly what I'm talking about now, because many of the African American community have spoken out about having to have the talk with their kids, especially their black boys.
Yes.
But, you know, there is a such thing in our community called the talk about how you should act and respond to any interaction with law enforcement.
Yes.
That's a real thing.
All right, let's continue the clip.
Excuse me. You heard me. Spread open your cheeks and lift your sack.
Skip forward a little bit.
I can't go to the bank like that. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Chappelle. Right this way. Why didn't you spread your cheeks in the beginning? Scared of them. Serious, man. You'll be a red light. The police might pull up next to you. It won't be no big deal for you, but you know what? I'll fucking fall apart. Oh, don't look over there. No.
Now that's similar to what you're saying. You know, you're driving and pop car pulls you over, and you're like, you don't even want to look over at them in case they're looking at you.
That is definitely a real thing, man.
Oh, well, I know now. I didn't know growing up, but you know.
Yeah.
Because they're looking for anything, any reason they can give you to, you know, like the Sandra Bland situation. I mean, the guy pulled her over because she didn't use her turn signal when she was pulling over to make room for him, because he was headed to some emergency and he had his lights on. Well, you know, if there's a cop behind you and they have their lights on, you move over to the side of the road.
Exactly.
Then he sees, okay, she didn't use her turn signal. I guess he said,
she must be up to something.
Forget about this emergency I'm headed to. Let me stop this black woman in a, you know, Toyota Camry and find out what's going on. And I mean, she ended up dead. So yeah, it's not a good time.
I completely agree. So yeah, what do we have? What's next?
So now we've got to continue with our dealing with the police.
The police.
We've got blacks versus whites when dealing with the police. This is also where where Chip is introduced for the first time.
So before you play that, you know, Chip, I think you told me that Chip is a real person. Is that correct?
Chip is a real person. I have his IMDb page in the next slide we're going to look at. And he was an assistant director on Chappelle's show.
Really?
So I don't know if it's the same Chip. I mean, it's kind of a random name for him to just make up. So I'm wondering if this is actually the guy that he was, you know, hanging out with.
Damn Chip. Okay, drop it.
All right, here we go.
Now, I was hanging out with a friend of mine. He's a white guy, you know. We were just hanging out. And we were lost in the city, you know, we were smoking a joint. Now, I don't know if it was a coincidence that we were lost and high and shit, but my white buddy, he was smoking a joint. Dave, it's the goddamn cops.
Then he keeps hitting them, the joint.
I'm going to ask him for directions. I said, Chip, no! Chip, don't do it! It was too late. He was walking over there. This man was high as shit. Excuse me. Excuse me, sir. Touching him and shit. Excuse me. Need some information. Start confessing things you shouldn't confess. I'm a little high. All I want to know, which way is 3rd Street? The cop was like, hey, take it easy. You're on 3rd Street. You better be careful. Go ahead, move it. Move it. That's all that happened. That's the end of the story. Now, I know that's not amazing to some of you, But she asked one of these black fellas, that shit is fucking incredible, isn't it? I'm saying a black man would never dream of talking to the police high. That's a waste of weed.
I'm just gonna pause it there. I think that's like the funniest shit ever. I mean, the white guy just like, he's like, Dave, it's the goddamn cops, and then he just keeps hitting the joint.
True. I mean, it's hey, it's indicative of the world we live in and the train of thinking.
Well, and now it's
so
like,
much truth to that.
Now it's not as big of a deal. I mean, 20 years later, a lot of these states, you can actually be smoking a joint on the street and it's fine. But back then,
yeah, in Liberalfornia.
But yeah, I mean, but back then, that was enough to get you thrown in jail. Let me skip forward a little bit. I think.
And fuck around and get the wrong ideas. I mean, I've been scared to talk to the I've been scared to talk to the police when I'm sleepy. And fuck around and get the wrong ideas. Oh my God. That nigga was on PCP, Johnson. I had to use necessary force. You saw him. No paperwork. Just sprinkle some crack on it. But at the time, I didn't think there was anything racial about it. I was like, man, Chip, you got fucking lucky. You better be careful. But then another time, me and Chip were driving.
Now, this is probably my favorite story in the whole special is when him and Chip are driving. So here we go.
Now, I'm not driving. Chip is driving, and he's driving a little crazy. He's been drinking. I don't like to let my friends drive drunk, but, I was smoking a joint. I couldn't really say shit to the guy. Then we get at a red light. We stop at a red light, and a car pulls up next to us, and I'll never forget it. Chippy looks at me, he's all drunk, and she's like, Dave, I'm going to race him. I knew it was a bad idea, but I was high. I tried to explain to him it was a bad idea, but all that came out was, well, nigga, sometimes you got race. Huh?
All right, man, you better pause it there.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit. So
I'm gonna race him. I just think
I mean, it's let's just say that that clip is super funny. I can recall some similar situations that I've been in with something just like that. I won't recall any names or anything of that nature, but yeah, I've been in those situations. Go ahead and run it.
All right.
Man, that light turned green and Chip took off, zigzagging and shit so no one could pass. The other car didn't even know he was racing. Then the police seen us and pulled us over. And you understand, I'm scared as shit. I mean, come on, the car smells like weed. I've been speeding. This man is fucking drunk. I was scared. Chip was not scared at all. It was weird. He didn't even turn his radio down. Isn't that weird a little bit? I mean, if you get pulled over, wouldn't you turn your radio down? Nobody want to get their ass beat to a soundtrack and shit. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's funny. It's also because of the things that have been happening.
Yeah.
It's also like, oh, shit. I mean.
Terrible.
Okay, continue.
Chip had the music blasting. We're not gonna take it. Today, just relax. Close your butt cheeks. Relax.
See?
Let me do the talking. You want to know what he said? It's almost exactly what he said. I couldn't believe it. He says, oh. Sorry, officer. I didn't know I couldn't do that. I was fucking shocked. The cop said, well, now you know. Just get out of here. Just get the fuck out of here.
Now that's another thing where, when he said, close your butt cheeks.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, that's a callback to earlier, when he said, spread your cheeks or look to your side. I mean, that's part of the genius of Chappelle is that he brings things back that he said like 20 minutes ago. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the cop just let them go for speeding. It smells like weed in the car and the guy's drunk as shit. I don't know. Darren, your thoughts?
Well, it's just, once again, it just goes right in line with, sad to say, with everything that's happening, just the disparities in the communities and how we view things. And he's bringing light to it, and it makes it funny. And it's great comedy. Don't get me wrong. It is absolutely wonderful. But on the same other side of that coin, it's truth.
Yes.
And I think that's what separates Dave from the rest, and what elevates him above everyone. It's just that, he makes light of it, has a great white guy's voice, and he's telling some real truth, but at the same time, it's funny. And I wouldn't be, and these are jokes, and I'm sure he's written these jokes, but I wouldn't be surprised, Kyle, if a lot of this material actually happened. I really wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, how much of this is based on his own experiences?
Yep.
Because, I mean, this shit happens. And it's... And he has another joke similar in one of his later specials, but it's a totally different thing, because at this point, he's super famous, and he gets pulled over, in his hometown in Ohio, and he's all scared. He's got his hands on 10 and 2. He's like, I'm gonna reach for my wallet now. I'm gonna reach for my registration. He's like scared he's gonna get shot, and the cop is like, Dave Chappelle, I know who you are. Like, it's just. He's famous now, and so
right.
He gets treated differently than your average black person who gets pulled over by the police and has to fear for their lives. So that brings me to since we introduced Chip, this is something I dug up. I don't know if you can see the picture, but that's Chip there driving a car. I guess that's his family with him. That's his IMDb photo. He was assistant director on Chappelle's show, and this is a clip from the Howard Stern show in 2002, I believe. Yeah, 2002, where Chip calls in to the show because Dave is sitting in on the news, and Chip calls in from the set and says, we need you to get down here. And so Dave had to leave the show. So let me just play that real quick.
Chip, go ahead, who works on Dave Chappelle's new TV show. What is it, Chip?
Dave Chappelle is a new show.
Hey, Dave.
Huh?
Hey, it's Chip. How you doing?
I got to shoot, don't I?
Yeah, we just want to let you know we have all the white supremacists going through hair and makeup right now.
All right, let me get ready.
And
are you supposed to be shooting a TV show today?
Yeah, I'm getting ready to come right now. I mean, it's a big white supremacist scene today.
What show is this?
It's a big sequence.
You're doing a show on what channel?
Comedy Central.
And you booked white supremacists?
No, not well. These are actors portraying white supremacists.
Oh, these are actors.
Yeah, I can't work. Real white supremacists are very hard to work with, I find. They want to take direction with them.
Especially from you. So what is it, a dancing KKK scene, like where you come out and you dance with?
They're like the Rockettes?
Yeah. Well, no, I'm playing the Grand Wizard, if you will.
Oh.
This is a long story.
Sounds good.
It's pretty interesting. I expect this to be some explosive comedy.
All right. So
wow.
You need Dave down there now, is what you're saying?
Yeah, Dave, it'd be good if you could come and we could shoot.
Chip, I got to tell you, you're really good at your job. I've been found a lot of places.
All right, thanks, Chip.
I'll need you down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks, man. Brandon's downstairs ready for you. I guess Dave has to go.
Chip.
So I thought that was pretty incredible.
Wow, that was amazing.
Yes.
That's really amazing, man. Do you realize what you just played? Like because as Chappelle fans, you and I both know exactly what Dave was referring to. He was referring to episode 1.
Yeah, so they
right
were
out the gate.
They were in the process, and this was in I think it was like October of 2002 when they were shooting that.
Yeah, so he was talking about Clayton Bigsby.
Yeah.
And and Dave's vision of that, and saying, basically saying, we're recording some pretty fantastic stuff, is basic, not verbatim what he said, but basically he was saying we're recording some pretty awesome, funny stuff.
He said it was going to be explosive comedy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Explosive. And boy, did he ever. He set the bar so high on episode 1, skit 1, right out of the gate. The bar was set so high. And you and I, and we're going to have an episode dedicated to our favorites and all that kind of stuff. And I'll go ahead and give a spoiler alert now. White Supremacy, Clayton Bigsby, that is my number 1. One of my top 3 for sure. I don't know if it edges out Black Bush or not, but it's right there. So, and for him to have that vision and to say that on Howard Stern, I mean, it's just, man, that is an amazing clip, brother. That right there is amazing.
Yes, I thought it was incredible. I just accidentally found it. It was Dave and it was Dave Chappelle and Dave Attell sitting in on the news. At the Stern Show, they used to have comedians come in and sit in during the news because Robin's not that funny, so they need people to liven it up. And Dave was really quiet that day, Dave Chappelle, and I think he had this on his mind. He's like, he knew he's probably looking at his watch. He's like, I got to get down there. Who knows how far away the studio was, but yeah, Chip is the guy that calls in and says, hey, you got to get down here. So I just don't know. It's a conspiracy theory. Is Chip in the stories the same Chip that was assistant director on the show?
That's crazy, man.
Yeah, I think so. All right, only 2 more clips. This next one, this is the one we discussed that was in the article, but I wanted to play the full clip. He's talking about the white people were, a little skeptical of the whole police brutality thing until they saw it in Newsweek.
I'm not saying I don't like police. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I'm just scared of them. Nothing wrong with that. Sometimes we want to call them too. Somebody broke into my house once. It's a good time to call them, but I don't. The house is too nice. It ain't a real nice house, but they never believe I lived in it. They're still here.
I love how he hits the microphone stand.
Open and shut case, Johnson. I saw this once before when I was a rookie. Apparently this nigger broke in and hung up pictures of his family everywhere. Well, let's sprinkle some crack on him and get out of here.
Again, another callback.
Oh, that's that whole brutality thing. That's common knowledge now. There was a time when only minorities really knew about that. I'm not going to say white people didn't believe us, but you were a little skeptical. I mean, I don't blame you. And then Newsweek printed it, and he knew it was true. And then the Newsweek, white people were like, oh my God. Honey, did you see this? Apparently the police have been beating up Negroes like hotcakes. It's in the May issue. I mean, really, how could you know, though? How could anyone else?
So I thought that was just worth playing the full clip of.
Yeah.
It's because it's so funny. I mean, it's just, white people don't live in that same world.
They don't. And once again, his white guy voice is just superb, man.
Wow. It's to a perfection. That's a quote from
beating up Negroes.
Negroes like hotcakes.
Shoot.
This racism is killing us inside.
What's the next clip?
The final clip. I thought this is just incredible because 8 years later he was right, but he's talking about the fact that there could be a black president one day. This is in the year 2000. I mean, at this point, Bill Clinton was still president, and he's talking about the fact that there might be a black president one day, but it's like, that first one better watch out.
Let's hear it.
See, the only reason I want to be president is because I'm black. That doesn't make it too hot for me. I mean, I think it could be a black president one day, but you don't want to be the first one. I mean, second or third, that's fine, but that first nigga better watch out. I'm going to tell you that right now. Too hot. I mean, I'd be the first black president. I don't think that nobody would really, really hurt me. I'm sure somebody would want to hurt me, but I don't think they'd touch me because my vice president will be Mexican for a little insurance. You know what I'm saying? You can shoot me if you want, but you're just going to open the border up, so might as well leave Vice President Santiago to our own devices. Ain't that right, Santiago? See?
Yeah, that's pretty good. That was pretty good.
Vice President is going to be Mexican for a little insurance.
Now, Obama went with, first, let's back up to that. I mean, we did achieve that. We did put the first African-American president in office in, 2008. But he did go with a white, a full-breaded white guy straight down the core.
He was covering his bases because
he was being safe. He was being very safe.
There's a lot of
I mean, but think about it. I mean, a black, not just any black guy, Tom Harkin, but a black guy named Barack Hussein Obama. I mean, come on. Come on. He had no choice. He had no choice.
They executed Saddam Hussein like 4 years prior. The man he shared a name with, Yeah. I mean, it was an incredible day when when he won the nomination, and Hillary Clinton was mad, son. She was
no punchline to that shit. She was mad.
But I mean, arguably probably one of the best presidents we've had. But again, I don't want to get too political.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have several that would disagree with that statement on the other side of that. But
can you imagine if he had elected, or if he had appointed a Hispanic guy to be vice president, I don't think he would have won. I think he needed an old white man on the ticket over some of those people that were on the fence.
To balance that out, yes. Well, good deal. Good deal.
Yes. Well, I believe that's all, unless we've got some Chappelle trivia. I think I've covered some of mine already. The Buddies show, which was his very first sitcom. There were 10 episodes, I believe, but and I don't know what network it was on. I think it was on Fox or something. They pulled it after only 2 episodes. But apparently now you can watch it on Amazon Prime, so I'm going to add it to the watch list.
Might have to check it out.
Yeah, that was one.
How terrible it was.
Yeah, I mean, they're saying, like, he was the only good thing about the show.
Yeah.
So, another thing that's interesting, and I sent you a screenshot several weeks ago, his grandfather, I believe, or great-grandfather, was part of a first black delegation to ever go visit the White House.
Yeah. Didn't he cover that as well, or
talked about that and yes, in his most recent special,
right?
And I looked it up, and sure enough, they were the first black people to ever get invited to the White House. And then fast forward to 2016, right before Obama left, he had a party at the White House hosted by BET.
Yeah,
which is just amazing, and to think that was 4 years ago, and now look what we've got. I mean, it's just, But you have some trivia too, right?
Sad. Well, yeah. First off, I think I'm not sure if a lot of people are aware that Dave is Muslim.
Right. That I didn't know that until I heard him say that on the Howard Stern show, actually.
Right. And he openly talks about how he doesn't really like to discuss his religion with people. And he gave a nice little reason, nice little quotable reason behind it at that moment. I don't actually remember what that was, but yeah, I think that's pretty interesting. What else? His parents.
Very interesting people. They were academics, both of them.
Yeah, academia. They were both professors, very smart individuals. So he comes from some parents that pretty much instilled some good values in him. What else?
And I think one of them was a professor of African American studies. Like there's an interview he interviewed Maya Angelou at one point. I have to check that clip, but yeah, I mean it's in his blood, going way back. That he's been raised being taught about Black history and about racial injustice and it's interesting. His mother is also a Unitarian Universalist minister. Thought that
right.
But then
what else?
Go to college. It's like you'd think that they would have encouraged him to, and they were probably somewhat disappointed when he said, "No, I'm going to try to go be an actor and a comedian." But
he did. What's the name of the acting school he went to?
Oh, that's right. He did go to.
He did go. The name is slipping my mind at the moment. I see you typing it in.
In high school, he worked as an usher at Ford's Theater.
He went to Duke Ellington School of Arts.
Ellington School of the Arts, yes.
Yes.
But I believe that was like a private high school. I don't know that was it's a high school. But it's one of those high schools that's like like one of those arts schools.
Yeah.
And he studied acting there. Actually.
Right. What else? Oh, that is his major influence in comedy was Bill Cosby. I found that to be kind of interesting, especially with everything surrounding Bill at this moment.
Also Eddie Murphy and Richard Pryor.
And I shared this with you not too long ago, where one of his earliest sketches that he pitched for a show, the sketch comedy that we know that has taken on and became pretty much a phenomenon for new comedians to come in and do sketch comedy. Pop Copy, for those of you that really know the Chappelle show, which I think Pop Copy, I'm not even sure if it made the first actual episode.
I think it was one of the first. It was one of the first sketches that he did in episode 1.
Was it? Did it? Okay.
It was before the Clayton Bigsby. I think it was actually. He had that Mitsubishi commercial thing that kind of started off, and then Pop Copy.
Okay, so Pop Copy supposedly was the first sketches that he pitched that he actually put out there to HBO, and HBO turned it down.
I think that's really interesting. That
you cut off.
Yeah. So he went to Comedy Central. I mean, and
Comedy Central picked it up and was like, you're on to something here. So I'm sure HBO, looking back now, wishes that they would have picked that up, which is actually sort of surprising to me, being that KTS was actually on HBO, wasn't it? Isn't that who did that special? Is that special?
Yeah. Killin Them Softly was a 1-hour HBO special, and prior to that he had a half-hour special on HBO. And then he did a couple of stand-up appearances on Def Comedy Jam, which I don't remember. I think that was on BET. But But yeah, you'd think that they would have had some sort of
that they would have gave him that opportunity, at least, on the mere goodwill of what he had done already for them with those specials. But apparently, business is business, and they wasn't feeling sketch comedy, I guess, at that point in time. But I guess Comedy Central saw the vision that Dave had with that and gave him that opportunity. So and that was great and awesome.
I think that if it had been on HBO, I don't think he would have had the same level, the same audience.
That is true.
$15 to $13 a month or whatever. I mean, it was on free cable, if you will.
Yeah.
Not free, but I mean, it was on basic cable. He would have gotten away with a lot more, raunchy stuff if it was on HBO. But
I don't know, buddy. He got away with some pretty. I mean, once again, right out of the gate, Clayton Bigsby. I mean.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard that when they feel that they have a good show, they try to give the writers as much freedom as possible and have them push the envelope. But I mean, that's now. This was January. The original release was January 22nd, 2003, and it went to July 23rd, 2006. So we're talking like a long time ago. But still, I mean. Look at all the shows on Comedy Central that failed.
Right.
Like, Mind of Mencia.
I mean, too many to even really think about. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
That is really interesting that HBO turned it down. You'd think they would have been all about it, especially after the success of Killin Them Softly.
I agree. But I think that wraps up. Let's see. Everything I can think of as far as the little trivia for now. So, yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, buddy, for joining me here. I think we've covered some interesting things, things that, we've said some quotes that only people who are really true fans are going to understand.
Yeah, they have to pretty much be some diehard Chappelle loyalists to understand some of the lines that we've gotten in there and laughed. I know some people may listen and be like, what are they laughing at? Like,
yeah, exactly.
That wasn't even funny. You have to kind of be in this Dave Chappelle world to understand, some of the things we've said. And, hey, just to be honest, it's going to continue to be that way.
Yeah, it is for sure.
For the duration of this podcast, for however long we run this thing, week after week, it's going to be some lines that if you're not a Dave Chappelle, fanatic, you might not catch some of it, but hey, that's just how we operate. And please understand, this isn't just us right now on this podcast. This is me and Kyle 24/7, every text, every phone conversation, every email. We never go a day without conversing where we don't get a Chappelle line in.
I would say 90% of our text messages include some form of a Dave Chappelle quote. Maybe 95.
Yeah.
Thing, I mean, I'll close with this, is that because he did make that comeback in 2014 and started touring arenas and touring all over the world, and I think he exposed a whole new generation. We were talking like, God, we're old. These young people don't know who the hell Dave Chappelle is, but I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that a younger generation has been exposed because of Netflix, and hopefully they'll go back and watch Chappelle's show, because not only that, but watch Killin Them Softly, watch
not only Killin Them Softly, Kyle, but then they need to watch Half Baked, then they need to watch Nutty Professor.
Yes, I want to go back and watch Nutty Professor now. I haven't seen it.
Then they need to watch everything else that Chappelle was in.
I'll add that sound effect in at the end because I think it's hilarious.
Y'all will hear a lot of "yeah" in this podcast as well, ladies and gentlemen. That's a promise.
It is, and I appreciate you doing this, and I'll let you get back to your wife and kids. I'll edit this and send you what I've got. You can tell me what's appropriate and what's not.
What's appropriate, what we need to take out, and what we can keep. Sounds good, man. Well, once again, we appreciate everyone for tuning in, and check us out next week.
Absolutely, it's been fun. All right, talk to you later.
All right, buddy. Bye.
And then I'm coming all the way to Washington, D.C. to take back the White House.